Hey everybody, I want to make a quick video about tape measures and which tape measures I think do what and what I think is the best option just personally. So I run a 25 footer. I'm doing commercial work right now, and we're running racks at a very high height, and a lot of the racks that we're running are set to be top of strut at like 23 feet. So I've been using this guy, my Stanley FATMAX with a magnet on the end, and I really like the Stanley FATMAX. I think the strengths of it are the standout is pretty good. I don't know if it's the greatest, but I do like the standout on the Stanley FATMAX. I think it goes pretty far. I also think that it's got a I don't know exactly how to say this, but like over when you have, like, let's say 23 feet, like right now I'm hanging strut, and when you have to go 23 feet out, if there's a gust of wind or something, the tape will very easily move, and sometimes when tapes go all the way out, they like don't go down in a straight line, and the Stanley FATMAX does. The Milwaukee kind of is more flimsy at very, very long distances. I'm not too sure if the standout is much better on the this is a Milwaukee stud with a magnet at 25 foot, but I think the Stanley, at least in my personal experience, does better at very long distances vertically, like just going down, staying straight. So I think that's one advantage that the Stanley has. I also like the way that the Stanley feels. I don't know. I mean, for my grip size, it just fits in my hand really nice. You can see it's a little bit smaller than how the Milwaukee is, and it just fits in your hand better. And I think that when you're like, sending the tape out to the side and needing to hold just the tape, I just like the size of this. I think it's very good. What else? What else is a good thing about the Stanley? The clip works for tool belts pretty well, but if you want to run it on the lip of your pocket or something, the clip is absolutely terrible. One advantage that I do like about the Milwaukee is that this clip will not fall off as much as this one. If you just put it onto your pant pocket, this will stay. This clip, if I was in a residential situation and I was stapling and I was just setting boxes or something, I was just roughing in a bunch of boxes and setting boxes, I would use this guy, because putting this on my pant pocket holds way better, and I can just run a hammer loop my hammer, get a magnet with a bunch of staples on my chest, and then this on my pants, and I can just weigh that out and get a pencil in my pocket and go and run and do all that. Or if you're hanging residential plastic rough-in boxes, this is really good. It stays on if you want to wear something really light and you're doing something that doesn't require a lot of tool pouches, you're just roughing in, this clip is a lot better for that. So that's one reason I have it. I would also like to make an argument that you should have a tape that's just for underground, because once dirt gets into a tape measure, it really, really ruins it. I don't have that set up currently because I recently just got on a job that has a lot of underground. It's been a while since I've done underground, so I didn't really think about it too much. But if you do it over time, I got caught in the rain with this guy recently, and it was a very dusty Nevada job site, and it's very simple for dust and dirt to get in there, and it can ruin your tape. For instance, normally there's a caution part. There's on the tape, it turns, instead of numbers, it says the numbers, but it says caution as well, and I can't get to that point anymore really unless I really, really force it on this guy. But I would say you should have an underground tape measure. Its whole purpose is, if you're outside, is to use that one, so it'll save your other tape measures. Drop test wise, I've definitely dropped these from a 6-foot ladder. I have thankfully never dropped it from anything further than that, but drop test wise, these guys are pretty good at standing the test of time. And yeah, I think one thing that could be seen as an advantage is if you're doing trim, or not trim, if you're roughing in lights, that this bottom tape measure reading is an advantage. Because like if you're off of a stud and you're in a weird angle on the ladder, reading it like this, can help you out. But the Stanley doesn't have that, and that's it might save you a few seconds over the time. Like there's an obvious easy way to do it. You could just get on a different rung of the ladder and you could just go and use this guy. But that is an advantage I have noticed about this guy. What else? I don't know. This is sort of like a 16-footer. If you're running like residential only and you're just doing small stuff, you can make an argument to get a little guy. I will say that, like, let's say you're working with a different person, that using a different tape measure can slightly throw off your measurements. Like that could come down to if you're, burning an inch and you're not using like the flex of the clip. Like the flex of the clip might go more or less depending on the brand. So, if you're pulling measurements and then you're giving it to someone and then they're pulling measurements on another thing, like it could make your measurements off. So if you are working in a situation where you're working with someone else, an argument could be made that you should have a tape measure that matches the common brands that people will buy. Like you might get an exotic like Crescent tape measure and have that, and then you use it, and then all the measurements are slightly off. But I don't know. One thing that I will say is sort of cool about the Toughbuilt one is that it goes down to the 30 seconds. You can very easily go down to the 30 seconds on your own and just be like, oh, it's between 9/16 and a half. We're talking about 30 seconds, So, but I don't know, some people might find this nice. I will show you the hooks on all of these. I think that an argument could be made about which hook is the easiest to grab stuff with. These are a comparison of all of the hooks, and I will say that I think like let's say you're trying to go down a wall cavity and you drop something, like you're probably not going to get caught as much on this guy as you would with those bigger rhino head looking type. This one is also really wide. This one's super wide by comparison to the other ones. This one does more vertical. So like this little top thing allows you to, if you see, this is where the tape is at, and this goes way above. So like you could hook it with the top of this. Whereas with the Stanley, probably you can't do that, but you could with the Milwaukee. And this one's kind of got that, but it's got a little spider look to it, and it's more wide. So maybe certain people will see an advantage to that. I do have the Crescent Night Eye one. Another thing about working and setting like lights or like a rack or like a truss or something to support a bunch of lights, like at great distances, like let's say we're doing like 15 feet, like is the height of a truss or something that's going to mount a bunch of lights. This guy goes really wobbly at that height. Like the tape doesn't go down straight to the ground and make a straight line really well. It kind of goes like it veers off like to one side, and so that can be hard to pull accurate measurements. So this guy and the Milwaukee, I've noticed in my opinion, do that, but the Stanley does not. The Stanley is pretty good at staying like straight down where you want it to be. So that's just some of my opinions. Yeah, the Crescent Night Eye, I have it too. I don't know where I have it, but I do have it. What do I not? The Crescent Night Eye, I think, is pretty cool if you're in like a low light application and you can't like see these as easily. But the Crescent Night Eye does show up a little bit easier in dark situations, like you're roughing in a room and they don't have temp lighting or something. That one can provide you with a little bit extra visibility, and I don't know, your headlamp dies or something, or or you're just using like a little light that you have instead of something that's better, or an area light or something, that can be an advantage. The crescent night eye does also, like I just said, kind of veers off to the side. And then if you're doing like let's say there's a big open area room and you want to pull measurements off of one thing, but you want to go for distance and not have to worry about everything being 1/8 of an inch off down a course of like 40 feet. You know, if you like let's say you have a light here and you have, let's say this is 8 feet and there's another one there, and you keep moving the tape measure from there to there, eventually you're going to get like an off like 1/2 inch if you're not like careful. But this allows you to go 100 feet and go and just not have to readjust every so often. So having a 100-foot tape measure can be great for, say, if you don't have one of those roller ones that give you measurements so that you can buy like wire per the size of the run that you're doing. That an argument could be made that you should get one of those, but this is more so for someone who's working for a company. But having one of these is pretty helpful. This helps you with like lighting layout. It can also help you with what else have I used this for? Pulling measurements off of a surface that's far away. We recently worked on like a wraparound balcony, and the measurements that the general contractor gave us for the engineered plans that they wanted for the lights was like absolutely ridiculous, and nothing was square, and they had all these snapped lines that were not square, and so we just started using the measurements based off of this really far away wraparound ledger on the end, and I was like, using this and getting measurements down like this 100 feet walkway. And so that allowed me to use this. So that was really helpful in that situation. And you'll probably, I don't know why I'm blanking on other situations that this would be useful, but having a really long tape measure is very helpful. So that's just some of my opinions on the Milwaukee Stanley FATMAX. I always get magnets, Toughbuilt, and a really long tape. I guess my last thing will be to have a magnet or not a magnet. I would say you're going to be working from a ladder very often, and you're either going to accidentally drop something, or you're going to be up on a ladder and then you forgot to grab something from your cart, and having a magnetic tape that you can just go and stretch out like 10 feet and go grab off of your cart is going to help you out so much. I've done that so many times. Or a tool drops and it lands in the small crevice that's behind 3 things, and you can only get it with a tape measure. Like, that's going to save you. Like, one time some guy, we were changing out electrical panels in apartment complexes, and the electrical panel was on the outside of a bathroom, and so they had this big shower pan, plastic or like fiberglass or whatever it is, shower pan on the back side of this panel. It was just super weird in my opinion, and this guy dropped his screwdriver and it fell under the shower pan, and everything's a finished wall already, but we took out the panel, so at least we can get in there. And I was able to use this and get the guy's screwdriver that he dropped out of there. But a magnet, in my opinion, is more helpful than it is not helpful. Just remember that whenever you're taking measurements, that having a bunch of metal shavings on the end of your tape is going to cut off your accuracy. So make sure that regularly, you take the metal shavings off. So that's just my take on a couple tape measures.